Hello, welcome to the 24-25 FAFSA walkthrough. My name is Cassandra Carney, and I am the Assistant Director on the Pleasantville campus. Today, we're going to go over why the FAFSA changed, new terms to know, additional resources, and I'm going to walk you through step by step using an actual demonstration FAFSA site. The FAFSA simplification is the product of three laws: Fostering Undergrad Talent by Unlocking Resource for Education Act of 2019, the Consolidation Act of 2021 and 2022. The FAFSA will reduce the maximum number of questions from 100 questions down to 46 questions. And because the FAFSA on the web is dynamic, some students won't even be presented with all 46 questions. This streamlined format will simplify the application process and make it less daunting for students and their parents. Currently, the FAFSA is only available in English and Spanish. The 2024-25 application will be expanded to include 11 most common languages spoken by English learner students and their parents. Please note, the student must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident to file their FAFSA. Some of the languages include French, Chinese, Italian. Students may also list up to 20 colleges. Previously, the FAFSA only allowed students to list up to 10 colleges and universities. New terms to know. These terms will be new for our returning students, and these will be brand new for our new students filing and completing their FAFSA. The first term, SAI, Student Aid Index. This is going to replace the EFC, which is the expected family contribution. The name accurately describes the number used to determine aid eligibility, and unlike the EFC, the SAI may be a negative number down to 1500, negative 1500. OFI, Other Financial Assistance. This replaces the EFA. FTI, this is the federal tax information. The DDX, now formerly known as the Direct Data Exchange. This replaces the DRT, which is formerly known as the Data Retrieval Tool. Previously, users had the option to enter their tax information manually or use the IRS Data Retrieval Tool. Beginning with the 24-25 FAFSA, all persons on the FAFSA must provide consent for the Department of Education to receive tax information or confirmation of non filing status directly from the IRS. In a very small number of cases, students and families will have to enter their tax data manually. But for most cases, that data will be automatically transferred into the FAFSA application. This change makes it so much easier to complete the FAFSA, and it reduces the number of questions to be answered. Family size. This will be replacing the household size. This information will be pulled directly from the tax information and will be able to update later. We will show you that in the presentation. FAFSA Submission Summary. This is formerly known as the Student Aid Report, the SAR. It replaces the SAR report. This is the summary that the student receives once they completed their FAFSA. This will be emailed to the student. Provisionally independent. This is designation provided to students who submit FAFSAs without parental information due to an unusual circumstance. The school is notified of students who are provisionally independent. Once we receive the information, we will then send additional documentation to students, letting them know what documents are needed. Lastly is the contributor. This is for anyone required to provide tax information and signature on FAFSA. This includes student, student spouse, biological, adopted parents, or the parent's spouse, a step parent. The students will email invite their contributors to complete their section of the FAFSA. Contributors will receive an information informing them that they have been identified as such. and will need to log in using their FSA ID to provide the required information on the student's FAFSA. We strongly encourage everyone to have a FSA ID prior to completing their FAFSA, as this could take 3 days to validate an FSA ID. Being a contributor does not mean that you are financially responsible for the student's education cost, but it does mean the contributor must provide information on the FAFSA or the application will be incomplete and the student will not be eligible for federal student aid. Also, new for this year, if a FAFSA is left incomplete for any reasons after 45 days, the FAFSA is deleted from the system and the student will have to reapply once the 45 days have lapsed. So we will talk about that more once we are in the demonstration website. These are just some educational links for you to go into on your own. This PowerPoint presentation and links will be shared. Right now, we are going to be entering the FAFSA demonstration. For today's demonstration, we're going to proceed as a independent student with both parents married, filing taxes jointly. If the student selects Start a New Form from the FAFSA landing page and they are not logged into their studentaid.gov, they are taken into this login page to enter their login credentials. To access the FAFSA form, all students are required to have a FSA ID. If the student does not have an FSA ID, they can create an account here. Again, we recommend that everyone has a FSA ID prior to completing the application. This is the main FAFSA form page. On this page, students are directed to start a new form or edit an existing form. For purposes of this presentation, the student is beginning a new application. As you can see, there is a edit button. We have been receiving feedback that it has been difficult for students to make edits. If possible, we recommend that you start and finish the FAFSA form and avoid any edits when possible. After logging in, the student can select the role to fill out the FAFSA form, student or parent. New this year, parents can also begin the application prior to the student starting. The student will be then notified by email. For this scenario today, we will have the student begin the FAFSA. When the student starts the 24-25 FAFSA form for the first time, they are taken through FAFSA onboarding process. The first onboarding page provides an overview of the FAFSA form, starting off with an informational video. This video is about 2 minutes long, and we highly recommend that you watch it. The second FAFSA onboarding page provides information about the different roles that may be required to participate in the student's FAFSA form and documents that may be needed to fill out the form. We recommend parents and students, when at all possible, to sit down and complete the FAFSA form together. I'd like to point out down here information or documents that you may need. These are all helpful links throughout the FAFSA form that will give you some information about information that you would need to complete the form. The third FAFSA onboarding page provides information about the types of questions the students can expect to see and how they can get additional help with filling out their FAFSA. I'd like to point out over here where it says, how long will this take? Approximately 1 hour. Even though it says 1 hour, most of the positive feedback that we have been receiving from students and families is it has taken them about 30 to 45 minutes to complete. We even have some financial aid professionals in our office who have completed the FAFSA form for their own children, and it has taken them about 20 to 25 minutes. This is a huge improvement from previous FAFSAs. After submitting, you will need to check the status of your FAFSA form and make corrections. This is the fourth and final page of the onboarding process about what to expect once the FAFSA form is completed, and the student can select Start FAFSA form down here. Please note, when it says process, this means processed by the Department of Education and then sent to schools within 3 days, providing that you have listed CASE on your application. So let's get ready to start our FAFSA form. This is the first page within the student section. The student can verify that their personal information is correct. To update any of the personal information, the student must access their account settings on studentaid.gov. For fields related to the student mailing address, they can edit directly on this page. It is important to note that all of this information has been pre-populated that transfers over from when the student has created their FSA ID. It's important to note that the student must use a professional personal email address and not use the email address from high school. The student is asked about their state of legal residency. The student selects the state from the drop down box and provides the month and year when they became a legal resident. For today's purposes, it's only allowing us to use New York. If you were born in the state and you are unsure of when you became a legal resident, it's always safe to use the month and the year that you were born. This page informs the students about consent and their federal tax information. By providing consent, the student's federal tax information is transferred directly into the FAFSA form from the IRS to help complete the student's financial sections. The student needs to select Approve at the bottom to provide consent and then is taken to the next page. If you do not provide consent and approval, you will not be eligible for federal student aid. That includes grants, loans, and any need based aid at Pace University. I'd like to point out again there are helpful hints on the side here of common questions that has been asked. Again, there is a contingency letting the student know if they do not provide consent. Here, the student will press approve, and this is providing consent, and the information will be transferred into their FAFSA form. This is the first page within the student personal circumstance section. It provides an overview of the section. The student is then asked about their marital status. For today's purposes, we will be proceeding with filling out the FAFSA form as single, never married. I'd like to point out at the top of the FAFSA, you could see that you are in the student section, the student's name, and this is the first of 5 sections on completing your FAFSA journey. The student is asked about their college grade level for 24-25 school year and if they will have their first bachelor's degree. The student selects that they will be a first year freshman and that they will not have their first bachelor's degree. This is for all first year freshman students. Of course, for our returning students, please check which one is pertaining to you. The student is asked if any of the listed personal circumstances apply to them. The student today will be checking none of these apply. Here is the part on the FAFSA where it starts to determine if the student will be dependent or independent based on their answers. The student is asked if they were homeless or at risk of being homeless. I just want to point out if the student was to indicate yes, they will be then brought to a series of additional questions that they would have to answer. This is very helpful for these students. Today, we are going to proceed as no and continue. The student is asked if unusual circumstances prevent them from contacting their parents. Today, the student will be checking no. One of these, here listed on the left, could possibly trigger the financial aid office to treat the student as an independent student. The financial aid office will then conduct an outreach for additional documentation when needed. Based on the answers provided previous sections, they are now considered a dependent student. The student will then be asked if they want a financial aid professional to determine their eligibility for a direct unsubsidized loan only. This is only an option if the student's parents are unwilling to complete the FAFSA form. Today, the student will be checking no. As the student is considered dependent, they are asked to provide information about their parents. The FAFSA form considers their parent to be the legal, biological, adoptive, or step parent. The student is asked if their parents are married to each other. Today, we're going to proceed as filing the FAFSA as the parents being married to each other. However, I would like to point out how helpful the FAFSA is if you answer this question no. There will be a series of additional questions that the student would then have to answer and report that pertains to them. Like I said, we will be proceeding moving forward as parents married to each other. We will have to provide information for parents. The student is asked to enter personal information about their parents in order to send them an email invite to complete their section of the FAFSA form. In this scenario, the student is going to only list one parent. I am just indicating the parent's information. Again, we are filing the FAFSA today's purposes as the parents married, filing jointly. We are sending just one invite to the parent. This is the first view within the student demographics section. It provides an overview of this section. The student is asked about their gender identity. The student selects the response from the options for both questions. The next set of questions are for research purposes only and does not have an impact on federal aid eligibility. The student is asked if they are Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. They are asked about their race. The student selects checkboxes to answers to these questions. Again, these are for research purposes only. The student is asked about their citizenship status. Today, the student is going to be proceeding as a U.S. citizen. I'd like to note if a student was to check on this box, they would then be prompted for additional information. As a reminder, you must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident to complete a FAFSA. For today's purposes, we will be proceeding as a U.S. citizen. The student is asked about their parents' education status. This is the government collecting data on first generation students. The student is asked if their parent was killed in the line of duty. This question is determined to be considered for certain federal or state grants. This question is important for New York State residents, in particular, who had a parent pass away, as they may be eligible for additional funding from New York State. The student is asked about what their high school completion status will be when they start the 24-25 school year. The student selects high school diploma. The student is asked which high school did they or will be graduating from. The student will enter their high school's state and city. After selecting search, they will need to select their correct high school from the search results. You can also put the name of the high school here, but you would need to search for your high school. FAFSA will provide the high school based on the information listed above. You have to then select it and continue. The student has the option to edit the high school information presented on this page by selecting Edit over here, which will return them to the previous page to the high school information. The student will confirm their high school information and select Continue to proceed to the next section. So, this is the first page within the student's financial section. It provides an overview of the section. The student is asked questions about their 2022 tax return. The student enters a response in each field. I'd like to point out that you cannot leave these questions blank. It will not let you proceed to the next section as you will get an error code. So it's important that if these questions do not pertain to you or the student, you must enter 0. I'd like to point out for this particular question over here, a lot of our students get confused with this question. This really only pertains to those students whose gift awards exceed all college expenses. That's including tuition, fees, housing, and meal plan. This question really pertains to some of a very limited of our few returning students. The student is asked about their assets. The student enters a response in each entry field. These answers have to be answered as the date that you are filing your FAFSA. As a side note, on the actual FAFSA form, there are actual drop-down boxes that explains what an investment or asset is. As a reminder, students and parents should not report their value of their retirement plan or the home that they live in. This is the first page in the college selection, which is the final part of the student's portion of their FAFSA. It provides an overview of the section. The student is asked to search for the university or college that they would like to have the school receive their FAFSA information. The student searches by school by entering the state, city, and or the school name, or you can search by the school code. After selecting search, they select the correct school for the search results. Students can select to send their FAFSA information to a maximum of 20 schools and university. This is an increase from previous year's FAFSAs of 10 schools. As you can see, the city and school name are optional, or again, you can search by the school code for the school. I'm going to just select the first few colleges that are here listed. I'd like to point out at the bottom, you could see as you're selecting, it gives you 8 out of 20 schools have been selected. Here, the student can view which colleges and universities that they have selected. If the student has not selected 20 schools, they have the option to search and select more schools and universities. When the student selects Continue, they will have completed entering the required student information for their section and can proceed to review and sign their FAFSA form. As a side note, for our new students, you can view information on colleges that you have selected to have the college receive the FAFSA information. This is pretty unique. Here is the student review page. The review page displays the responses that the student has provided in the FAFSA form. The student can view all their responses by selecting Expand All or expand each section individually. To edit a response, the student can select the question's hyperlink and will be taken to the corresponding page that they would need to update. Additionally, since the student invited their parent into the form, they can see the parent contributor section here at the bottom, the date that it was added, and the invite has been sent to the contributor. On this page, the student acknowledges the terms and conditions of the FAFSA form and signs their section. After agreeing and signing, the student is able to submit their section of the FAFSA form. Since parent information has not been provided, the FAFSA form is not considered complete yet and cannot be fully processed until the parent contributor completes their portion, and then the FAFSA will be finalized. By checking here, you are signing your FAFSA form. Upon signing the student section, the student is presented the this section is complete. This page displays information for the student about next steps, including tracking information on their FAFSA. The student is reminded that their FAFSA form is not yet completed and can't be submitted until the parent completes the contributor section of the form, and then the parent needs to sign it. Next, in this scenario, the student invited parent will be entering the FAFSA form and completing their section. This is not a view from studentaid.gov nor the actual FAFSA form. This is the view of the parent opening the FAFSA invitation from their email. The parent selects login and then is directed to studentaid.gov. As previous stated in this presentation, forms are deleted after 45 days of inactivity. So, what that means is after the student has completed their section and they have sent it to their contributor, if the contributor does not provide information within 45 days, the FAFSA form is deleted. The student would then need to refill out their information that we previously just did and re-invite the parent. So it's very important to communicate with your student if you are not filling out the FAFSA form together, and they will be sending you an invite. We are going to proceed with logging in. The parent is taken from their email to the login page. To access the FAFSA form, all users again are required to have an FSA ID. If the parent does not have an FSA ID, they can create an account. Again, we highly recommend that the parent has an FSA ID prior to filling out the FAFSA form, as it could take up to 3 days to validate the information. Here, the parent is going to be accepting the invite and that'll be continuing them to prompt themselves into the FAFSA form. This page provides information about being a contributor on the FAFSA form. A lot of the questions parents have can simply be answered by reading these provided helpful questions. Again, it's so handy. Over here, there are drop down boxes informing the parent about some commonly known questions that are asked. And again, just like the student was presented, the parents are also presented an parent onboarding section. When the parent enters the 24-25 FAFSA form for the first time, they are also taken through the FAFSA onboarding process. This first onboarding page provides an overview of the FAFSA form with this 2-minute video. The second FAFSA onboarding page provides information about the different roles that may be required to complete the student's FAFSA form and the documents that may be needed to fill out the form. Again, it is definitely recommended that you have your tax information in front of you. The third onboarding page provides information about the types of questions the parent can expect to see and how they can get help in filling out the FAFSA form. Again, it is noting that it should take about 1 hour to complete the FAFSA form. However, it's taken about 30 to 45 minutes. And lastly, the last onboarding page provides information about what to expect once the FAFSA form is completed overall and submitted. On this page, the parent will select Start the FAFSA form. So we are going to begin completing the parent contributors section. This is the first page within the parent section. The parent can verify that their personal information is correct. To update any of the personal information, the parent must access their account settings on studentaid.gov. For fields related to the parent's mailing address, the parent can edit them directly on this page. Again, this is all information that is pre populated from the FSA ID that you have created. This page informs the parent about consent and their federal tax information. By providing consent, the parent's federal tax information is transferred directly into the FAFSA form from the IRS to help complete the parent's financial section. At the bottom, the parent selects Approve to provide consent and is taken to the next page. For our returning students, this is brand new. Again, there are frequently asked questions that are very helpful to the parents and students when completing their FAFSA. And there's also a contingency down here on if you do not approve the section. This is the first page in the parents demographic section. It provides an overview of the section. The parent is asked about their current marital status. They select married, not separated option. Again, for today's purposes, we are continuing as a dependent student with parents married, filing jointly. The parent has to enter their spouse's information. Please note, the spouse does not need to complete their section. Being that they are married and filing taxes jointly, the spouse does not need to be a contributor. For reporting purposes, they are just making sure that the parent's name that is listed on the tax returns are accurate. Again, this does not the second parent does not have to go in and enter their information. The parent is asked about their state of legal residency. The parent selects the state from a drop down box and provides the month and year when they became a legal resident. This is the first page within the parent's financial section. It provides an overview of the section. This page asks the parent if they or anyone in their family has received federal benefits. These are federal benefits that families may receive, like earned income credit or federal housing assistance. The more common federal benefits are SNAP, SSI. Answers to these questions will not negatively affect the student's eligibility for federal student aid. This page asks the parent if their family size has changed. Today I will be showing you an example. The number of people that you claimed on your taxes may not be the same as the number of people living in your household. The FAFSA will list the number of people, including on your tax return only. Again, this information was pulled from your tax return. If there is anyone else living in your household that you will be providing support for, here is where you update. So, for example, say you have a grandparent, a niece or nephew living in the household, but you did not claim them on your taxes. Here's where you make the adjusted update. And down here, you have to enter the number of children or other dependents that have living in your household that you have provided support for. So we could provide two. Say that we have a niece and nephew living with us. This page asks the parent how many people in the family will be in college between the dates provided here. The parent will enter response into the entry field. The number in college will be asked, but it will not impact the SAI. It's for demographic, and some states rely on this information to make their awards. Again, parents, if you are pursuing a higher education degree, you cannot include that in the number in college. We will be proceeding with just two children in college. The parent is asked about questions about their 2022 tax return. Here, the parent enters a response in each entry field. Just like the student section, the parents cannot leave this blank. Please note, on the actual FAFSA form, there's fields for drop downs that help explain where you can obtain this information, your IRA rollover and a pension rollover. It's important to update this if this pertains to you. Again, just like the student section, a lot of our parents get confused with this question. This really pertains to our returning students and really only for those students who gift awards, exceed all college expenses, tuition, fees, housing, meal plan, books. The parent is asked about their assets. The parent enters a response in each entry field. Even with consenting to the DDX tax filers, we'll see a few tax questions on the FAFSA form, including EITC, taxable grant scholarships, and foreign income exclusion. These are the financial questions that do not transfer in from your tax return when using the DDX. As a reminder, students and parents should not report the value of their retirement plan or the home that they live in. And you are answering these questions as it pertains to the parent and student on the date that you are filing the FAFSA form. The review page displays the responses that the parent has provided in the FAFSA. In this scenario, the parent can only view responses within the parent section of the student's FAFSA form. The parent can view all of their responses by selecting Expand All or expand each section individually. To edit a response, the parent can select on the question hyperlink and be taken to the corresponding page. This section mirrors the section that the student had to take a moment to review before signing. I'd like to point out over here on the left, just like the student section, there are green check marks indicating that these are the sections that have been already completed. Please note the last section does not have a green check mark because you still have to proceed to signing the FAFSA form. On this page, the parent acknowledges the terms and conditions of the FAFSA form and signs their section. Since all required sections are complete, the parent can sign and submit their information for the student's FAFSA form to be completed. When this parent and student complete both their sections, the parent will then receive the FAFSA form is completed. An email was sent to the student notifying them that the information has been completed. Upon submitting the student's FAFSA form, the parent will be presented with this page. And this page will demonstrate all the information about the tracking for the student's FAFSA form. And the student will receive an email with full detailed confirmation. With the student and parent sections completed and signed, the FAFSA form is now considered completed and submitted for processing. The student then receives their FAFSA submission summary that's presented here. The FAFSA submission summary is broken into four tabs: eligibility overview, FAFSA form answers, school information, and next steps. At the top, the student will see information about when their form was received, when it was processed, and their data release number. They also have the option to print their FAFSA submission summary to keep for their own records over here. If you have any questions regarding your FAFSA form, we recommend that you visit studentaid.gov and use the helpful hints section for completing your FAFSA. Here's our Pace University financial aid email address. Please email us with any questions. And of course, feel free to call us with the numbers provided here.